Tulsi Gabbard's political journey is very different from that of your average American politician. It is this extraordinary story that makes her so unique. Born in Hawaii on April 12, 1981, Gabbard is not only a politician but also a military leader. At the age of 21, she was elected to the Hawaii House of Representatives, becoming one of the youngest state legislators in America. At the time, few could have predicted that this courageous young woman would one day shake up the traditional structure of American politics. But it was clear from the start that Gabbard was a game changer. The year 2004 was one of the turning points that showed her to be not just a politician, but a man of action. Volunteering for the National Guard and serving in Iraq proved that Gabbard's actions backed up her words. While serving in a medical unit, she learned firsthand that war is not just a theoretical debate. These experiences deeply shaped her worldview. Later, when she opposed the U.S. policy of regime change wars, she often referred to her experiences during this time. Gabbard's military career is also a remarkable success story. Her 2007 graduation from the Alabama Military Academy at the top of her class once again demonstrated her leadership skills. In 2008, while serving as a military police platoon leader in Kuwait, she demonstrated that she was not only a leader, but also an influential figure in the field. She rose through the ranks, reaching the rank of major in 2015 and lieutenant colonel in 2021. For most politicians, war may be a distant topic of discussion, but Tulsi Gabbard has experienced the harsh realities of war firsthand. Her worldview, shaped by these realities, has pushed the conventional boundaries of American politics. Tulsi Gabbard's rise to prominence within the Democratic Party began in 2013 when she was elected to the House of Representatives from Hawaii's 2nd Congressional District. At the time, Gabbard, the first Samoan American member of Congress, was known as a Democrat loyal to party discipline, but she quickly changed that image. Perhaps her biggest turning point came in 2016, when she resigned as vice chair of the Democratic National Committee to support Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. This decision put Gabbard in open conflict with the Democratic Party leadership and gave her a rebel identity. Gabbard's appointment by Donald Trump as Director of National Intelligence has provoked strong reactions within the Democratic Party. Some Democrats saw this appointment as the ultimate result of Gabbard's deviation from the party line. The controversy, which started especially after she left the Democratic National Committee in 2016 to support Bernie Sanders, intensified with this decision. This split in the Democratic Party strengthened Gabbard's identity as an independent political figure. This identity became even more pronounced when she entered the race for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination. Although her campaign was unsuccessful, it cemented her place on the American political scene as a bold and independent figure. Ultimately, in 2022, she chose to leave the Democratic Party and pursue an independent path, a decision that resulted in her joining the Republican Party in 2024. Gabbard's transitions have created an unusual profile in American politics, making her both a leader outside of party lines and a controversial figure for many. To understand Gabbard's politics, one must pay attention not only to her actions, but also to her language. Her frequent use of terms such as diplomacy, independent thinking, and anti-war set her apart from the conventional jargon of American politics. In particular, Gabbard's meeting with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and her conciliatory stance toward Russia have become fodder for those who question her foreign policy approach. Critics argued that these actions contradicted American values, while her supporters defended her pursuit of a peaceful foreign policy. But both sides were forced to recognize that Gabbard was a figure who transcended the stereotypical boundaries of American politics. In November 2024, Donald Trump's decision to appoint Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, DNI, reverberated not only in the United States, but around the world. Gabbard's unusual background and controversial stances have galvanized both her supporters and critics. The decision was in keeping with Trump's status quo challenging style, and Gabbard's policies continue to push the traditional boundaries of American politics. One of the turning points in Gabbard's career was her meeting with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in 2017. The meeting, which she defended as a peace initiative, was interpreted by her critics as sympathetic to an authoritarian leader. It became one of the strongest trump cards in the hands of those who questioned her foreign policy approach. But her supporters continued to argue that Gabbard was boldly trying unconventional methods and seeking different ways to resolve conflicts. Trump's choice of Gabbard as DNI was a resounding decision in the intelligence world. Critics pointed to her lack of experience and unconventional foreign policy approaches, while supporters praised her independent and courageous character. Her military background, especially her experience in the field, reinforced expectations that Gabbard could bring a more humane and pragmatic perspective to intelligence matters. Whether Gabbard will succeed in this new position remains to be seen, but her appointment has reignited concerns about the polarization of American politics and the politicization of the intelligence community. Some see her appointment as a bold attempt at reform, others see it as a dangerous gamble. Once again, Tulsi Gabbard has emerged as a game-changing figure in American politics. Tulsi Gabbard's appointment as Director of National Intelligence has generated both excitement and serious concern. Most notable among the critics' concerns is her lack of experience in the intelligence field. Gabbard's military background raises questions about her ability to manage the complexities of the intelligence world. Managing a military unit is very different from managing the multi-layered structure of the intelligence community, experts point out. In addition, Gabbard's unconventional views on foreign policy continue to be a source of controversy in her new role. Her conciliatory approach to issues such as Russia and Syria is seen as a risk to U.S. relations with its traditional allies. In particular, her meeting with Bashar al-Assad and her opposition to regime change wars have been criticized by many in Washington. This stance has the potential to create serious fissures in American foreign policy. Tulsi Gabbard's approach to Russia challenges the mainstream discourse of American politics. While most U.S. politicians define Russia as an enemy or a strategic threat, Gabbard stands out with her call for diplomacy and dialogue. In her view, the constant confrontation between two major nuclear powers only creates greater risks. However, critics see this conciliatory stance as going soft on Moscow. Some argue that Gabbard is too sympathetic to Russia, while her supporters defend her vision as a strategy for peace. Gabbard seems to want to mitigate the damage that aggressive U.S. foreign policy has caused around the world. For her, a fundamental change in American policy is needed to move away from the constant creation of enemies and to pursue a more balanced global policy. It is unclear, however, how this vision will play out in practice. Russia's aggressive behavior in Ukraine and its cyber threats against Western democracies make a strong case for Gabbard's tougher stance. Gabbard's stance on Russia and Syria in particular has often been the target of criticism in American politics. Critics describe her diplomatic approach as a dangerous inflexibility that could damage U.S. relations with traditional allies. In particular, his failure to take a tougher stance against Russia's aggressive actions in Ukraine and cyber threats against Western democracies has been the focus of this criticism. Gabbard's leadership could be a critical turning point for American foreign policy. If successful, she could go down in history as the leader who steered the U.S. toward a less interventionist, more diplomatic course. But if things go wrong, she will be criticized for being dangerously naive and putting the national interest at risk. In this context, Tulsi Gabbard will be a figure who shapes not only her own political legacy, but also the future of American intelligence and foreign policy. Her risky path will either mark the beginning of an era of reform in American politics or a new area of conflict. Either way, Gabbard will be remembered as one of history's watershed moments. Tulsi Gabbard's defection from the Democratic Party and open support for Donald Trump sent shockwaves through American politics. Once a staunch supporter of powerful left-wing figures like Bernie Sanders, Gabbard's radical transformation has stunned both her supporters and critics. Her transformation has raised profound questions about American politics. Is Tulsi Gabbard a truly independent leader or a master political maneuverer? Her statements upon leaving the Democratic Party were full of sharp criticism of the party. Describing the party's leadership as elitist and corrupt, Gabbard defended her defection as an ideological stance. Critics, however, saw her move as an attempt to chart a new direction for her own career. It is still debated whether her statements criticizing the Democratic Party were an attempt to take a position according to the political winds of the time or a sincere call for reform. Gabbard's endorsement of Trump has deepened these debates. Known as a harsh critic of Trump's policies in the past, Gabbard's sudden endorsement surprised not only Democrats, but also independent voters. Trump's appointment of her as Director of National Intelligence created a unique dynamic in American politics. According to critics, the move was Trump's attempt to select a compatible figure who could implement his vision. Media outlets such as Al Jazeera described Gabbard's appointment as the introduction of a partisan player. Her supporters defend her as a bold reformer. According to them, Tulsi Gabbard is an independent figure who recognizes the weaknesses and corruption of the two-party system. Her military experience reinforces the perception that she is a leader who has faced challenges not only in the political arena, but also in the real world. This makes her a good candidate, especially for those who want to reform the American intelligence community. But does Gabbard's independent stance stem from a genuine reform ideal, or is it part of a larger political strategy? Her departure from the Democratic Party and alignment with the Republican Party can be seen as a calculated move to reach out to a broader constituency. This raises the question of whether she is a reformist or a pragmatist. Gabbard's appointment as Director of National Intelligence under Trump's aegis represents a turning point in American politics. The decisions she makes in this role will reveal whether she is genuinely committed to reform or simply seeking to advance her own career. For now, Gabbard stands at the intersection of two perceptions, as a reformer trying to stay outside the system, and as a pragmatist who, for some, is forging her own path by assuming different identities. Tulsi Gabbard's appointment as Director of National Intelligence heralds a shakeup in American politics. But will it be a shock therapy that reshapes the intelligence community or a minefield of unforeseen problems? That is the question everyone is eagerly awaiting the answer to. According to her supporters, Gabbard is ideal for the position. They argue that the U.S. intelligence community, which has been making its own rules for years, needs an outside voice to intervene. Gabbard's anti-war stance and her opposition to regime change wars raise hopes that she could take a more pragmatic and peaceful line. If she can convince the CIA to give diplomacy a chance, that alone would be a major achievement, they say. But it remains to be seen how far this approach will fit into the power play tradition of American intelligence. Critics see the appointment as a serious national security risk. Gabbard's lack of experience may justify those who question her competence to manage such a complex system. In their view, her diplomacy-oriented approach, while pragmatic, could be perceived as naive romanticism in the intelligence world. The impact of this appointment will be felt not only in Washington, but also in global politics. Is it possible for the U.S. to adopt a less interventionist foreign policy? Yes, but could this lead to a loss of confidence among allies? The answer to this question depends on the balance Gabbard strikes in the intelligence community. If excessive diplomacy undermines U.S. deterrence, it could create a power vacuum in the international arena. But if Gabbard does indeed reduce corruption and reform politicization in the intelligence community, it could be a historic turning point. Ultimately, whether the intelligence community can move in a pragmatic direction under Gabbard's leadership will depend on how she handles this assignment. If she sees the role as a chance to fix the system from within, it could revolutionize U.S. intelligence policy. But if the appointment remains a move that only serves Trump's political strategies, Gabbard could jeopardize her legacy and the reputation of the U.S. intelligence community. For now, one thing is certain. This is no ordinary development. Gabbard has arrived on the scene, and everyone is waiting with bated breath to see how this story plays out. The whole world is ready to watch Tulsi Gabbard's biggest test in American politics. Expect surprises because this is going to be a story to remember.